What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Optimus Fantasy Football channel here on YouTube. It is Friday, April 11th, 2025. We're 146 days away from the kickoff of the NFL season.
Who's counting?
Who's nobody. I saw it earlier, just off chance. It's not like I have a countdown calendar on my laptop at all.
Next to your Dave Barry word a day.
Yeah, well, of course, duh. We got Jamie already dropping in the chat saying, hi, guys. What is up, Mr. Prague? Always a pleasure to see you. Folks, we are here to help you because there is no off season in fantasy football. If you're not playing redraft or you're not playing dynasty, there's still bets to be made. There's still fun to be had and things to know, because if you're not on top of the news when it comes to draft season, you are behind everyone else in your league. That's where we come in. Every single Friday, we'll be here to answer your questions. We've got our first one right here. If you've got questions, guys, drop them in the chat, whether you are on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, or you're on Twitch watching us, we can read those. So go ahead and drop them in here. First question, guys, we're going to go ahead and get to it from Jamie. Should he trade the 101 for Roschon Johnson?
Would you trade Action Genty for Roschon Johnson? Are the kids doing that these days?
I mean, they might be. Just, do people still do things ironically?
I mean, we're not the Arcade Fire, so I don't think so.
That's a fair point. Fair point. Lou Brunson pointing out in the chat, the NFL draft is less than 2 weeks away. That is very true, guys. And with that, we have a massive slate of content coming around that. I do want to let you guys know our Discord community is up and running thanks to Mr. Lou Brunson. Lou has made it very easy for you to get as many or as few notifications as you want about all of our Optimus content. But here's the big kicker, folks. We are going to have the most comprehensive draft coverage you can imagine. We're going to be announcing all 257 picks with trades as they happen in our Discord server. If you want specific updates about your team, you can set them up as your role within our Discord server and only get notifications about your team. It's a really fantastic setup, so go check out the show description. We've got the link to our Discord server there. It is free to sign up. It will always be free. There are going to be some special perks you might have to pay for down the road, but the meat of it is going to continue to be free. It's the Optimus community, so check that out on Discord. Here's another question. Do you think Joe Flacco is going to be a top 10 QB again on the Browns? I'm going to go to you for this one, Keith.
Negative, Ghost Rider. I do not think Joe Flacco is going to be a top 10 QB for the Browns. Can't wait to just really dive into a QB room of Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, and he who must not be named. So, quite a room.
Well, something I said on Reddit regarding this whole situation here of them signing Flacco is I don't know that there is a more telltale sign that they're planning on rolling out Kenny Pickett. Why else would you bring in Joe Flacco? You bring him in to be the backup. Kevin, I mean, do you think this is a sign that it is in fact going to be Kenny Pickett in Cleveland?
I don't know, and I don't think anybody knows.
I don't think Cleveland knows.
I don't think Cleveland knows. I mean, they're at the mercy of, they probably know what quarterback they want, but will they be in a position to take that or even kick the can down the road to the second round and maybe someone's there they don't expect and they trade back up into the first? We don't know yet, but
it's true.
I mean, why are we anointing Kenny Pickett again? At least Flacco has had stretches, even though he's 40 years old, he's still probably he's better than every backup, I would say right now. I think he's still,
I would agree.
He was good for David Njoku. He was, pretty good for, some of the weapons they had there. I think he's a starter right now, and probably the bridge to whoever they draft.
I don't hate that. I don't like the idea of them rolling out Kenny Pickett. I don't like it for Jerry Jeudy. I don't like it for David Njoku at all. I don't like it for that offense in general. But maybe they'll, like you said, maybe they'll do something later in the draft. Maybe they're going to move back up into round one at some point. Maybe they're going to make a trade and bring somebody in. But if they don't and they roll with Flacco, I like that a hell of a lot better than Kenny Pickett. We've got Index of Suspicion saying you can't wait to see Stefanski fired with 2 Comeback Player of the Year awards in his tenure. I mean,
Jimmy Haslam should fire himself. I mean,
Jimmy Haslam. look, if we get into an ownership and sports conversation, Jimmy Haslam's up there as the worst. I think the owner of the Mavericks, whatever that woman's name is, and her husband, I think they're probably the worst because they traded Luka.
Marge Schott.
Oh God, Marge Schott in history. Oh, we want to go in history.
Donald Sterling. Schott. Yeah, we can get into this.
Marge. Oh my God, George Steinbrenner.
I don't know about Steinbrenner.
He wasn't awful.
He won. He was just way too public.
Dan Snyder.
That's a fair point. Dan Snyder is an awful one too. Lou Brunson saying that Super Bowl champion Kenny Babyhands Pickett to us mere mortals. We got Drew Hamilton in the chat saying Jimmy Haslam to the moon, then we leave him there forever with no oxygen. Yeah, and index of suspicion to what you said, Kevin. Steinbrenner wasn't bad. His teams won. Yes, but as a lifelong Red Sox fan, that was the worst part for me. Because he just kept winning. It was frustrating as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get on to some questions here. We had a few come in here over our various social media channels, guys. If you want to get a question in ahead of time before you tune in, email us, team@optimusfantasy.com. You can also find us on Facebook. You can find us on Reddit at optimusfantasy.bsky.social. Here's the first one coming in from @RedditFF on Blue Sky. I believe this question is coming over from Reddit. Guys, what's your approach on late second or third, fourth round rookie picks? Do you try to stack up extra picks in those rounds for extra dart throws to find the outlier? Or do you try to sell them to someone else who overhypes their own ability to find said outlier? Keith, I'll start with you on this one.
I mean, I don't like to load up on those picks. It usually costs you to get a lot of, second, third, fourth. I mean, obviously, if you can pick them up late in the season and you're out of contention, sure, why not? But overall, I just target guys I really like. A little bit more chalky first round, even in the second to a certain extent. But I mean, to me, once you get to third, fourth round, you might as well go after guys that you think are going to be good or, could eventually be good, be sleepers, etc.
Kevin, how do you feel about this? Are you more of do you like to stack some of those late picks and then move them, or are you going to hold them if you're stacked with them?
I mean, the thing is with those picks, like, what are the chances you're actually picking up something useful? Like, yeah, you have Puka. Yeah, you have like Tank Dell. You have guys that are going to fall through the cracks, certainly. But what are the chances that in stacking a lot of those just to fill the back of your roster that you're probably going to be dropping some of those guys anyway? I would rather pool if someone wants them. I'm more than happy to trade them. I'd rather pool them into something that I know I'm going to be able to use versus like, it's kind of similar, but it's not to where you have all these like at the end of best ball where your 14th through 18th round picks, they're essentially lottery tickets. Now, I don't know if I want that kind of corollary in Dynasty. Certainly, I'd rather have the asset, if I can pool together a couple seconds and a couple thirds and trade them for a high second or a late first, even. Like, if someone wants them that bad, they can have them.
I've said this. If I've said it once, I've said it probably 30,000 times. I am a proponent of known assets over prospective assets, I suppose, is what I'll call rookie draft picks. We don't know what these guys are going to be. We don't know what that pick is going to be. You could be trading for the 107 in a rookie draft now. You don't know what's going to be there. A lot of things could change between now and the time a lot of these rookie drafts are going off. If I have those third and fourth round picks, I'm moving them. I don't want them. Because you get Puka every now and again. I have a couple shares of Puka. I had to trade to get him. I did not get him in drafts. I'm okay with that because it's so infrequent. I just moved Roshan Johnson for two third round picks. Got Roshan Johnson back.
You didn't get the 101?
Oh, I didn't. I know. I'm slacking. And I just don't. If you have them and you can't move them, fine. Take a dart throw. I just don't typically hold them. I want something that at least has a chance of producing versus like, oh my God, could I get the one Puka Nacua in 5 years at wide receiver? It just doesn't make sense to me. Let's move on to the next one here. We have got this one coming over from Greg Kellogg, one of the godfathers of what we do here in this industry, over on Facebook. He wants to know this, Kevin. How important is landing position for a back of Austin Jonty's talent? And will he be a top 12 running back as a rookie?
I think absolutely he'll be a top 12 running back, and landing spot is almost secondary, but you have to be able to buy in as a team knowing that you're going to be drafting him. Like if you like looking at some of the landing spots, the first real landing spot under consideration is the Raiders. Then you're probably, I think the Saints have like an outside shot, but also like the Bears, Cowboys, like, those teams are set, especially the Bears, that they want with Ben Johnson, they need a running back to be able to just pound like he did in Detroit. The Raiders certainly have, Chip Kelly that's going to be running a lot of play volume. And there's going to be a lot of plays. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for Nash and Genty in that backfield. So I think landing spot's important, but I don't think it's like the end all be all because we've seen backs just produce no matter what. Like we've seen Leonard Fournette with the Jaguars wasn't exactly the best landing spot, but he was a top 8 running back. Zeke with the Cowboys, Saquon with the Giants. So we've seen these backs, produce despite some questionable landing spots too. So I mean, Ashton Genty is far and away the best. He's the 101 consensus.
Oh, it's not even close as far as running backs go. Yes, 100%. I think the only way landing spot would really concern me is if he landed somewhere like Pittsburgh. That would worry me.
I don't even know about that because it's the Arthur Smith's wet dream to get a back like that.
Well, we thought it was his wet dream to have Bijan Robinson too, and look how that worked out his first season.
That's first season. Yeah, that is fair, but we know there's going to be a massive amount of, based on how they want to trade George Pickens. They brought in DK Metcalf. Their issues right now at quarterback. Like it's
going to be Aaron Rodgers.
Well,
or they go after Jackson Dart.
Let him get dump offs. Great. Aaron Rodgers has fed Aaron Jones and Breece Hall with receptions.
Sure.
That's great. I would love Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback because Aaron Rodgers can't throw the deep. He was not great throwing the deep ball last season. His accuracy was moving down, but the shorter ADOT that you get if you're just throwing passes down the flats to Ashton Genty and you let him get 80 targets on top of what he's already doing, that's the top 6 back.
All right, fair enough. Keith, what do you think about this? How important is Jonty's landing spot right now for his fantasy value?
I mean, it's important. Like if you're saying he's definitely going to be a top 12 running back, but I don't think it's important that he's going to be effective. Obviously, I think year 1 and by year 2, year 3, he's going to, be a monster. He's the real deal.
Yeah.
The only, I think, negatives I've seen from people is competition. And I just don't buy that. Even against the best teams he played, he had very good games. He's a legit, talent. Like I think he reminds me a lot of, Bijan, Jamar Gibbs, those kind of guys that both can be a really effective runner and then also just a real weapon in any passing game.
Yep. So I just want to toss this out here, and I'm sure you guys saw this, but news broke today that Carr might miss the season with the shoulder issue. He needs surgery. If he has the surgery, he is done for the year. Probably is going to actually need that surgery. It's sounding more like now. So they might be more in play for a quarterback than we might have thought. Do you think the Saints go quarterback in the first round now?
Certainly in play. You have to certainly think about that. It's tough when you're the first team eliminated and the NFL draft hasn't already happened from playoff contention. The graphic is already up. So
isn't the QB class a lot better next year to where I would almost say, look, let's get the best player available. Yes, we're going to be bad because we're going to be weak at QB, and let's get the 101 next year and see what we can do. So what,
you roll out Spencer Rattler then?
Probably.
Whatever you got it. Like, this is not the quarterback class to go need. Hey, we have a need that just popped up. We better knee jerk and take a quarterback.
Exactly.
This is not the class to do it unless you want to end up with like 75-year-old Tyler Shuck as your quarterback.
Or Seth Hennigan. You get Seth Hennigan. Yeah, he was a good kid though. Yeah, we've got this here saying index of suspicion saying Spencer Rattler is probably likely what happens. Definitely doesn't affect my 0 shares of Chris Olave. I'm in that same boat, Vince. I have no shares. So, I don't know. Get the picks and call it a wish. Call it a wash. Yeah, I would. Yeah. I don't think they need to go after a quarterback this year. And if they do, it needs to be one of these late guys. You know who they should have gone after is Michael Pratt last year out of Tulane. I said that.
You said that, and then he was, I think, already? Well, no, that was the other one that Green Bay had, Clifford. But yeah, isn't he already had Tampa's practice? He's gonna be a practice squad floater.
He probably will be. Well, it's what happens to those.
Well, these are the receipts that Mickey Loomis is now having to stare at for kicking the can for the last 3 decades with the Cap. So,
all right, we're going to move on to our next question, guys. This is a dynasty question from Reddit FF again. Could a dynasty league that changes scoring roster to mimic Scott Fishbowl each year be successful, or would it just turn into an immediate cluster? You know what, Kevin? What do you think about this idea?
I don't know if I want to play in that league. I mean, I would be taking in a startup guys that, would fit my scoring system. Like if it were tight end premium or whatever, I'd be skewing toward tight ends and seeing what kind of receiving work I can get out of them and taking a bunch of them later and hope a couple of them hit. If that changes where it's just normal, it just does not do anything for me as far as a league that I would want to play in for multiple years. Like, you can leave that to like the redraft stuff, like a seasonal league, but in a dynasty league, I don't know if I want to do that.
Keith, what about if you did it in a keeper format where maybe you had like a 4-keeper modified Scott Fishbowl rules every year?
I just think it would be a clusterfuck. Now, if you want to talk about a best ball, Scott Fish, bowl type deal, yeah, bring it on. But the problem is, how are you going to do a dynasty year to year? Like, I mean, are you set in your, division or league every single year? Like, I don't know how you couldn't not do it that way. And just then you need people to come back every single year or it's sort of a mess.
Yeah.
I think it would be hard to do. I think we're all in agreement here. Now, guys, we're going to move on to, this is one of the harder hitting questions we got today. But first, anybody you're sitting in the chat, if you're on Twitch, if you're on Facebook, or if you're on YouTube, drop those questions in the chat, guys, and we'll get them up there and get them answered before we get out of here. So now we got this question. This is from Legit Fantasy Enterprise, which I'm kind of questioning their legitimacy at this point right now. I hope they're watching here. Who do you think is a better kisser, guys? Is it Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders? We probably should have brought Linda in for this one. Just came a little late.
So I'm taking a look at these two gentlemen. All right. Now, Cam Ward, I don't know. I just don't see the full lips. But Shadur Sanders, though. Shadur Sanders, I think I want Shadur Sanders. That's just me.
I'm going off of family history here and just knowing Neon Dion primetime. You feel like it probably translates to the kid through like genetics and heredity and stuff. So I'm going with Shadur. Keith, where are you at on this one?
I have to go Cam Ward just because with the Saints news today, if Sanders did get drafted by the Saints, I don't ever want to live in a world where I potentially kiss a New Orleans Saints player. So I'm going to have to go Cam Ward.
Lips are ready for prime time.
Oh, man. All right. We're going to move on here. Another one from Legit FF Enterprise, Drew Hamilton. He is in the chat. He confirmed. He says now he'll give us a real one. Buy, sell, or hold Keon Coleman. Keith, we'll start you off with this one.
I mean, I would like to say hold, but I think it's sell. I just from what we've seen from Buffalo the last 2 years, particularly the second half of 2 years ago and the entire season last year, they just don't seem to be a team that puts an emphasis on targeting really any receiver outside of Khalil Shakir. And I think that's just because he's more of the underneath, move the chains guy. And this is really a Josh Allen, James Cook, and we're going to spread the ball in the passing game around as much as possible. And I think, unfortunately, Coleman, I think, is a very talented dude. It's just not the best landing spot. So I would probably be selling him.
Kevin, are you with Keith on this and selling Keon Coleman?
Yeah, I'm probably selling them just for the reasons that Keith said about there's no, target consolidation in Buffalo, by any stretch. Keon Coleman was pretty much set into like a Gabe Davis role without anything short. 15-yard A dot last season. Like the 1.7 yard routes per route run, that's just because he ran so deep, and when he did actually catch the ball, obviously it was going to be for longer gains. So that is pretty much skewed with that. And that's something you want to look for too. When you're looking at you don't want to look at like yards per route run as like an end all be all. You got to take the player's role into account. Like if it's like a 10, 11 yard A dot and they're, just gobbling up targets and doing that, that's great. But if like guys like Deshaun Jackson, guys, MVS can skew that really wildly with, especially being a deep threat, and especially if it's an efficient deep threat, like the end of last year for MVS when he was with the Saints. He caught seemingly a touchdown a week with the way he was going there. But yeah, that's the role that Keon Coleman's at, and I can't see any target earning in his future unless something crazy happens or there's a bunch of injuries. But yeah, the Bills don't seem like they want to, seriously feature any, like they signed Josh Palmer. This just makes it all the more gross. Dalton Kincaid's gross enough.
Still got Dawson Knox hanging around.
Josh Allen's roommate. Yeah. It's not great.
Running backs, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson. If you're not James Cook, who's going to get obviously force fed in the run game, good God. I mean, it's just.
Well, and it's funny because you look at this depth chart and you're like, okay, well, you got Khalil Shakir, KJ Hamler, Keon Coleman, Laviska Shenault, Josh Palmer, Dalton Kincaid.
This is the back of a dead dynasty team?
Yeah, exactly.
KJ Hamler, right? Visca. Oh yeah, my God. Right. This is like looking
one of my dynasty teams. And you look at that and you're like, well, yeah, Keon Coleman, of course he can break through that. But you guys, you're both right. Like the reality is it's not the way this offense is run. Keon Coleman, talented wide receiver, love the personality, man. Love the kid's personality. But as a dynasty asset, I'm selling him. And it's a bummer, but it's just kind of the way that it is.
It's the Chiefs blueprint. It's get a bunch of guys and hope you get production it's going to be all spread out. Obviously, Khalil Shakir is probably the leader in the clubhouse in terms of target earning, but you're not expecting any of these other guys, Palmer, Coleman, even Kincaid, to get over 75 targets? I don't think that's going to happen.
No, it won't. It definitely won't. Oh, God, Kincaid was supposed to be the darling too, and he's just really not. All right, we've got this one here.
The Rube Goldberg machine. That's what he is.
Dude. So frustrating. Okay, we've got this question from Vince Mapstone in the chat here. Kevin, I'm going to start with you here. Rank them for redraft. Zach Charbonnet, Jordan Mason, Jalen Wright.
Well, I mean, if you want to go over to Optimus Fantasy right now, there was a certain article about a certain running back grouping. Kids are calling it 0RB these days. And I did mention all three of these guys in my article. So
yes, you did.
In terms of my article, in tier 1 is Jordan Mason, but right behind him is Zach Charbonnet. I did kind of leak out that I thought Isaac Guerrero would be in this tier as well, but I have started to sour on him because it feels like increasingly that the Niners are going to draft a running back, which could muddy things up. But yeah, Jordan Mason getting traded to the Minnesota Vikings, where Aaron Jones hasn't been a picture of health, and if something were to happen to him, and they're already talking about Jordan Mason getting a goal line role, so at least that's a modicum of standalone value. We saw Jordan Mason at the beginning of last year just tear it up, and now if Jones gets hurt, Jordan Mason, where they do not use backups, because in the famous Kevin O'Connell, Sean McVay tree of condensed personnel, they do not use anybody else. They didn't use Tyler Chandler last year. They used a little bit of Cam Akers, but not too much. Jordan Mason would be a low end RB1 in the Vikings offense. And Charbonnet, I think, is the only 0 RB back that can realistically challenge their incumbent Ken Walker without an injury happening. So I do like both Charbonnet and Mason. Mason just a little bit over Charbonnet, and then Jalen Wright, I think, is kind of live to be replaced in the draft as well, because he didn't really pass a lot of the eye test. He didn't really show a lot of efficiency or burst. I was not very impressed by what he did, but we know Miami, the Shanahan system, it's a very fruitful kind of running back system there. So if they bring in somebody, I think it's going to be tough for Jalen Wright to provide any value for redraft.
It makes me sad because I love Jalen Wright's talent. It's not going to be realized and I don't like Miami's offense in general. I'm just not a fan of what's going on there right now. Keith, do you agree here with Kevin, or do you have a little bit different feel about these running backs?
No, I would rank them the exact same way. And I do think that even if Aaron Jones does not get injured, he has a better chance to carve out a role in Minnesota this year than any other, because don't forget they're going to be starting, for all intents and purposes, a rookie quarterback. And I just think that Minnesota may run a little bit more than they have in the past. And, at Aaron Jones's age and just with – the miles he already has on his body, it wouldn't surprise me if he at least has a role, because Kevin's right. Typically in those offenses, the backup running backs on, like missing posters. But I think Jordan Mason might actually have a chance. And don't be surprised either that, the guy that I saw early last year before he started having some injuries and stuff, I think he could eventually challenge Aaron Jones, because, again, Aaron Jones is getting up there in age.
Yeah, I do think that with Mason, like, that dude does not catch passes, so I think that could be good in the passing game to spread out to the Jeffersons, the Addisons, the TJ Hawkinsons, and as a joke, I will toss out the Rondale Moores as well. I think that'll be good for the passing game. But yeah, Mason, I think only caught got 11 targets last year throughout his 12, 13 games. That's not great. That's like Gus Edwards territory.
Yeah,
and you don't want to be in that territory.
No.
Well, I think this is probably a perfect opportunity to kind of slip into our next question here. We've got a quarterback tiers question. How would you order these QBs, tier these quarterbacks for Dynasty? Keith, I'm going to start with you here. We've got J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix, Bryce Young, and Justin Fields.
Man. I guess I would have to go Penix first because I'm a Falcons fan and I have to believe. And again, they do have Drake London, Bijan Robinson. Like, there is the weapons there to give Penix an opportunity to be really good. From there, I would go Bryce because I liked what I saw last year. I do think he's a very talented quarterback. McCarthy and then Fields. And the irony of that is Fields would be the guy that I would want the most by far of these four guys in a traditional fantasy league this year.
Yeah.
I can't guarantee that Justin Fields is going to have a job, next year. Like, I hope he continues to improve. I actually do like some of the strides he made last year, but he's in yet another situation with a bad offensive line, so weapon. Obviously, Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall are great, but not really much else. So I would go Penix, Young, McCarthy, and Fields.
Kevin, I don't think you agree with this here. Let's hear what you have to say.
I don't know how we can go and discount everything that Kevin O'Connell has done for quarterbacks. So look, I was on record last year as I said Mike McDaniel I would trust with my life, and that obviously backfired. Injuries did help that, but the new I would trust with my life is Kevin O'Connell. So I would take J.J. McCarthy first. I trust Kevin O'Connell, former quarterback himself, knows what he wants in a quarterback, knows, how to cultivate, have you seen that guy on the sidelines? Like, I can't run anything, and I would run through a wall for that guy. So give me J.J. McCarthy with, the planet Earth's best wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, and at least, Jordan Addison and Hawkinson and Rondale Moore, of course. And then I would take it in this order with McCarthy, Penix, Young, and Fields. But of course, to Keith's wisdom, I would be taking Fields in an absolute landslide as, a top 12 redraft quarterback.
Yeah, same. But in Dynasty, again, I agree with both of you guys where he's on a bad offense. He's kind of proven to be a journeyman quarterback. We don't know where he's going to be next season. It's hard to want to really go after him in Dynasty. Redraft, different story. I'm with you, though, Kevin. I like McCarthy and I like McConnell. And I want to go to this comment here in the chat from Lou Brunson. Dude made Josh Dobbs and Sam Darnold into legit quarterbacks. If we don't believe in our souls, our souls are empty, and that's not a world I want to live in. So there you go. I mean, and I'm with you. I'm completely
Imagine not living in that world.
Imagine. Can you? Well, Keith does.
Apparently.
But that's all right. We've got another question here I want to get to real quick before we move on to some of our pre-submitted questions here. Fields or Anthony Richardson in Dynasty, Keith? Which one are you going for?
Fields. I mean, at least I've seen Fields be able to handle being a starting quarterback without, getting injured and just the more that Richardson runs, it just seems to be the more likely he's going to get hurt, to where Fields has had one of the greatest rushing seasons of all time and, did not end up getting hurt. So I would say Fields.
Okay. Kevin, are you with him on Fields?
Yeah, Fields. As much as we would love to be able to take Anthony Richardson's one beautiful deep ball to Alec Pierce and extrapolate that to the other 500 of his throws, can't quite do that quite yet.
No. The thing with Anthony Richardson is I don't believe he's still going to be the starter by week 6. And I think that spells the end of his NFL career because he's being replaced by Daniel Jones. And that's just bad. That's not a good sign. Not a good sign. When you have that gut feeling about a guy, get off of him. I have moved completely on from Anthony Richardson. I will not be drafting him in Scott Fishbowl. I got tricked. Ian and Scott Fish were like, I can't believe that you got him at the turn in round 1 last year. They were both at our draft in Denver.
And JB Barry took him at 101.
Yeah. Ian and Scott Fish think that I'm smart for getting Anthony Richardson that early.
Not great, Bob.
Not great, Bob. We got another question from Vince here. Who's a guy you guys have to have on your redraft rosters in 2025? For a bonus point, tell me why you picked Sincere McCormick, Kevin.
He plays on the same team as Sincere McCormick. Brock fucking Bowers, guys.
Yep.
Do I have to rehash this every single stream? Brock Allen Bowers is an 18-year-old produced with 13 other NFL talents at Georgia, was the clear number 1 target on that team. And he's translated. He's the best tight end prospect ever. He is not Kyle Pitts. He is his own man. He is 101 in Dynasty for me, even in Superflex. He is, wherever I am in redraft, I will take Brock Bowers and let the rest of the draft come to me. It's Brock.
All right. I'm going to go a little off the path here, like a later round guy that I'm really not leaving without. It's pretty simple. It's Baker Mayfield. I love what Tampa Bay is doing, and I think he's a value quarterback. You can do some other things at other positions, walk away with Baker Mayfield as your QB1, and you're set. Keith, who's yours?
It's going to be Terry McLaurin. And I'll talk more about that when we get into the exercise we're doing at the end of the show. But I believe in F1 McLaurin. Happy that he has a good quarterback. Screamed last year that he had played with just a bunch of bums, and it was good to see with a good quarterback. He showed he's an elite wide receiver.
Yep. All right, we're going to get on to another question. This is kind of a two-parter, guys. So this is another one from Reddit FF over there on Blue Sky. Lots of scoring on calculators within the Dynasty community. As a new manager, how do I gauge value based on just gut feel? My leagues don't have a ton of trades, so can't just feel things out over a short period of time. Keith, I'm going to start with you. And yeah, there's a lot of dislike of trade calculators and trade charts in the Dynasty community. And to address that, I think a lot of that is because they're so generalized and things can be so different from league to league based on different managers and how different managers value different positions and different scoring. So those aren't necessarily the greatest thing. So Keith, how do you look at this from a Dynasty perspective without using a trade chart?
I mean, this is the closest opportunity you have to being a general manager. in fantasy football. And so for me, yeah, obviously, am I gonna, listen to other people's opinions on talents and whatnot? But at the end of the day, I'm gonna pick the players that I want and I like, and I'm gonna trust my gut
Yep.
even more than I do in redraft because in redraft you're stuck with them for 1 year, in DFS you're stuck with them for 1 week, in Dynasty you're stuck with them for a while. So I mean, trust your gut. And just to me, the real reaction needs to be on once your season is either, I don't know, 7, 8 weeks in, you got to make the decision. Am I somebody that wants to compete or am I somebody who wants to build for the future? And that's really where, you need to start trying to get the most you can for, whatever you're willing to get rid of.
Yep. Kevin, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, like it's tough because you don't want to be in that like middle ground. You don't want to be in the between the contending and knowing that you got to sell your team off or rebuilding. Like you don't want to be in that murky area where, you don't know what you're doing. You're finishing like, 7-7 every year. But yeah, as far as like gut feel, like that's pretty much how I do it. And I know it's tough for people who may not, have a lot of experience, especially with this league that doesn't have a ton of trades. Like nobody wants to lose a trade, but on the other side, like it's really what you feel. If you feel you got the best value, who am I to say that this trade sucks? We're not fortune tellers. We can't see in the future. If you traded, 2 years ago, actually last year, I made a trade. I was contending. I traded Lad McConkey for J.K. Dobbins. This was when J.K. Dobbins early in the season was healthy. I had a lot of wide receivers. You know what? I needed a running back outside. I had Devon Achane and Rico Dowdle, and I needed a running back. And I traded Lad McConkey, and I thought it was a great trade at the beginning. Turns out it's not a great trade, but it's really roster dependent. So if it feels good for your team, then by all means don't do it, and don't listen to anybody else because they don't have your best interest for the most part in mind when you're trying to make a trade that's going to improve your team either for the short term or the long term.
Right. I'm with you. And here's what I like what you said is that, yeah, maybe it didn't work out at the time, but in the moment, my roster, the situation called for that trade, right? I hate
it's not like Lad McConkey was my wide receiver too.
Right.
Like he was my wide receiver like 6 or 7, and you deal for
you had a player to give and you needed to get a running back. Those are the deals that make sense to me. I hate people who post trades on social media and say, "Hey, who won this trade?" You're looking at it you're looking at it the wrong way. Because ideally, if you want to be good at this, right, and you want long-term to be successful within your leagues and be able to make deals, you need everyone to win every trade that you make, because you want your trade partner to walk away feeling like, all right, like I made my team better, he made his team better, I'm happy with that.
Yep.
That's how I look at a trade.
And Vince has it exactly right. Don't be afraid to make some swings, because if you don't, make it, if you don't make a trade at all, then you're just
that's the only trade you lose.
Right. That's the trade you lose.
The trade you lose is a trade you're not willing to make. I just wanted to throw this one up here. Mr. Doug Royer, he is the father of Casey Kasem, my Wednesday and Thursday co-host. What's up, Doug? It's good to see you too, man. We've missed having you around on the show. Here, I want to toss this up here. This is from Vince Mapstone. I'm happy to lose trades to take some shots in Dynasty. Trial and error theory helps you get better at trusting your judgment, gauging values, and also gauging what the market offers you too. That's basically the perfect answer, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Johnny Bats, good to see you here, buddy. It's your team. Have fun and take players you like and you're a fan of. Yeah. Like, I agree. I want to have fun, right? That's why I have like almost no Raiders players on my team, because they're not fun, except Brock Bowers, of course. I mean, he's got
the most fun.
He's the most fun. Now this is kind of a follow-up here. This person also wants to know, am I wrong to use a calculator to find a reasonable initial proposal, then determine plus minus on my own from there based on the other manager's response? Kevin, do you think that that's a good way to at least start a trade?
that's the best way to find a baseline. Like if you're like close on that, like obviously it's the trade calc is not going to have every single scenario, have your entire team context in mind, and being able to make every single variable, because that's the thing, is that it's infinite variables to trading, because you don't know what the other person values.
Right.
You don't know what the other person is thinking, who they want to keep, who they want to get rid of. So yeah, using that as like a baseline and then just kind of using your gut after that, I think it's a great way to do that. That's a great use of a trade calculator. It's not to find the perfect trade, it's to get you in the ballpark, and then you can kind of mix and match and find your way to a good deal.
Yep, exactly. Keith, how do you feel about this? I mean, is that a reasonable way to at least get to a base value to start a trade?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I will say though that this is why I try to get to know people that I'm in dynasty, or I mean honestly even redraft leagues with, is because you can usually find, I hate to say it this way, but like a weakness in people, right? Like where you find out that they like a certain team, or just knowing their roster build, looking also at other teams' roster builds, and say you're really deep at running back and there's not a lot of other teams that are at that position. You say, look, this is the best back you're going to get, and usually you can sometimes end up getting a little bit better into the deal. But I'm with you, Nate, that's the way I try to frame every trade that I do, is that we should both win here, right? Like, let's make a deal where you help your team and I help mine.
Yeah, I think it's the best way to do it. All right, we're going to move on to our last pre-submitted question here. This one comes from Greg Kellogg again on Facebook. Kevin, we kind of already answered this one for Greg on Facebook, but I think it's a valid question as we kind of are getting closer to draft season here and closer to the NFL draft. Do you still like zero RB as a draft strategy? To me, positional scarcity makes this a very risky strategy. Kevin, you are the zero RB guru. I'm going to let you answer this one.
Absolutely.
Do I still like zero RB? Like, well, it's won people literal millions of dollars. But here's the thing. There's no draft strategy that is an end all be all, or else everybody would be doing it. There are, and I don't want to scare people away when I say this, but I understand why people want to go robust RB. I understand why people want to go anchor RB. I understand why you want to fill out your positions. But yeah, I mean, zero RB, we've seen running backs, become available at certain points in the season where they are going to be providing RB2 value. This is especially in redraft. You always have running backs that pop up, and last year was kind of an outlier because we had so much running back health compared to like the last 7, 8, 9 years. Like,
and so many more wide receiver injuries than normal.
Yeah, and we're going to see some variance in that. So even in a year like last year, where we saw just almost across the board great health for running backs, there were still the Bucky Irvings, there were still the Chuba Hubbards, there were still all these running backs that were league-winning type running backs. And then you could find the running backs like the Isaac Arendos and the Sincere McCormicks that could get you by in a week, but if you drafted like Brock Bowers in the 9th round and you drafted Jamar Chase and all these other wide receivers and had an elite quarterback, you were still lapping the field. RB2 is by far the worst position in fantasy as far as, points scored. You want to fill every other position on your roster but RB2 and use that last, and you want to fill that with volume. So zero RB is going to be a key tool in anybody's toolbox every single year. And, we're seeing running backs kind of get pushed up a little more already in early ADP. And I think that's a bit foolhardy to assume good health yet again, where we know injuries come for these running backs based on volume. Josh Hermsmeyer in 2015 did a study about a decade's worth of running backs based on ADP, and the top 24 running backs in ADP were 370% more likely to get a 4+ week injury than top 24 wide receivers. So
that tracks. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
of course it does. Yeah.
Yeah. Kevin, I'm with you. I tend to, and what I said on this Facebook post was that I don't just strictly do zero RB. I'll use any draft strategy. It just depends on what happens in the first couple of rounds, and I'll kind of decide from there. But I will tell you this: I never take a running back in the first round. I couldn't tell you the last time I took a running back in the first even 2 or 3 rounds of a draft. It just doesn't happen.
Right. And I still think too, and there's merit to that too, where if you're doing a portfolio of teams, or if you're doing, a good amount of teams, I will still take Bijan's my RB1. I will take Bijan. I have no problem doing that. You still want to be able to mix like those guys in, but yeah, by and large, like it's just any roster construction can win. That's the thing.
No, I completely agree with you. We got a follow up to this question here on the back of that question, Kevin. Do you think we'll see a lot more robust RB builds and drafts this year because of the outlier of last season?
I think it's fair to assume that people are always going to look back at last year and assume that that is the only thing that happens. So, of course, that's going to translate over to this year. They're going to assume that a season where we had almost unparalleled health from the wide receiver position in tandem with wide receivers that had gotten hurt, that's just the way it is to 2025. And that couldn't be any further from the truth. Like, we're going to see variance at play. It happens in every single thing that we have. If we have a sample of anything, not just football, that you compare two, data sets to, there's always going to be variance. And variance, the main variance in fantasy football is health.
That's the biggest. At running back, the way that the league runs now is these general managers and these coaches have gotten smarter about how they use running backs. The guys who are bell cows, they just simply don't last as long. I mean, freaks of nature like Derrick Henry come along once every 15 to 20 years, right?
Yeah.
We don't see that as often. More likely what you're going to get are guys like Le'Veon Bell, who, if you overuse them, they're good for 4 seasons and they're a dead asset. Not just in fantasy football, Todd Gurley, but in the NFL as well. General managers and coaches have gotten smarter. They're being more intelligent about how they're using these running backs. They're not giving these guys these massive workloads anymore. So it's hard to find that bell cow. And in fantasy, that, to me, that they lose value, which is why I wait on it. And injuries are still so prevalent. With a lot of these guys taking them so high up, you're banking on them not getting hurt. Christian McCaffrey is a perfect example, right? Yep. We take him every year in the first round, and then he gets hurt. He had 3 good seasons, but he was also had 600 plus touches in all 3 of those seasons. So you get what you get with that.
Yeah. And we see like a guy like Saquon Barkley, who absolutely tore up fantasy this past season, but he was only the 4th highest running back scorer this decade in terms of seasonal finishes. So he was generational, for this season. That's not always going to parlay into the next season. So,
running behind an amazing offensive line, too, I'd like to add.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, we've got this one in the chat here, guys. I think this one is going to probably round us out here. John Battagliano wants to know, how are we feeling, guys, about Chuba Hubbard in Dynasty? John's got him on a couple of teams. He has no idea where to value him beyond this season. I'll start this one. I'm not feeling good about it. I never felt great about it. I never felt great about Chuba. Looked really good last season. I like what he did. I think he's going to have a role this season, but beyond 2025, I don't know. I don't know how to value him at all because I have no idea where he's going to be or what he's going to be doing for whom. Kevin?
Yeah. See, the thing is, they paid him in the middle of last season, but there is an out after 2025. But
exactly
the way the Panthers roster shakes out right now, you're looking at Jonathan Brooks is likely out this entire season, is going to be basically back in 2026 as a blank slate. You don't know what to do with him. Raheem Blackshear is a special teamer. So I think I'm fine with buying Chuba Hubbard, but not at a super premium. If I had to trade a second or something like that for Chuba Hubbard, and with the caveat that you might get 2 years out of him, I think I would be fine with that versus taking a rookie You know, Chuba Hubbard has been efficient the last couple seasons. I think he's been one of the most underrated backs in the NFL. Like, I think from a success rate standpoint, I think he was top 5. He was top 4 last year in terms of NFL Next Gen stats success rate. And a lot of the metrics that we like, runs, rush yards after contact per attempt, things like that. He's always been really good in. So I'm fine with buying Chuba Hubbard as far as, you know, if I need a running back that might be getting me from this year to next year and then kind of see what happens after that. But he's also, he's still only 26 years old. Like, he's not 28. He's not 29. So, like, I'm fine with it.
All right, Keith, how do you feel about Chuba?
Yeah, I'm good this year, worried moving forward. But again, in Dynasty, there's very few running backs that I feel good about for more than 1-2 years at a time anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to be honest, if they're not one of these, Bijan Gibbs like type guys, Henry Barkley, like, I'd rather just, you take your chances. I do think he's going to have a good year this year. I know they added Dottle, right, which I know that might cut a little into it, but I think he's a much better running back than Rico Dottle.
Yeah, he is.
I think he is too. I still can't understand why Dallas didn't just re-sign Rico Dowdle, though. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Especially when they added Javonte Williams.
Right.
Yeah, we got this comment coming in from Twitch. Polar Knight saying, as a barber, I love this show. It's every single stage of beard growth. It's true. Mine's getting a little out of control. I think there's some animals growing in this part of it. But, it might be. It's hard to say, really.
Yeah.
But hey, I live in Colorado.
I'm just going to say we might as well just rename this pod the Graybeards at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. A bunch of old asses over here. We got this comment, and I want to remind everyone, if you've been looking during the show, you've seen that little promo code over there in the corner and up at the top. Fast Draft. Have you guys not signed up for it yet? You need to go check it out, guys. It is the best in fast best ball drafting. And right now, if you sign up with the promo code Optimus, you can get up to a $50 deposit match, 100% with your first draft. New users only, of course. But go check it out. They're doing some really awesome rookie drafts right now, which it's 6-player rookie drafts. You can be in and out in like 5 or 6 minutes, guys. It's super easy, super quick. So check it out, fastdraft.app with the promo code Optimus. And then also the Fantasy Football Expo, guys. It's coming up soon. Yeah. It's going to be a blast. We're going to be in Canton, Ohio, August 8th through the 10th. For all sorts of events. We've got parties, we've got drafts, we've got the full-on expo and panels to help you with everything. If you're interested in going, check out the show description. We have some promo codes to get you some money off of your package for the weekend. We're all going to be there. You can come say hi, meet your favorite Optimus people. We'll probably be nice. No, we don't bite. We're really nice, I promise.
Not on the 8th. It's my birthday. So
as long as I've eaten.
Well, I'll be gone.
I'll be nice. If not, it might be a little.
And I'll be with you, Kevin.
Yeah.
Oh, there's food everywhere. It's all over the place. But, well, guys, we want to thank you all for watching, for submitting your questions, for hanging with us on your Friday afternoon or evening if you're on the East Coast. It's approaching 7 o'clock here. Oh, boy, 3 minutes until 7 out there on the East Coast. Time for dinner, so we will get you guys out of here. Again, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like this video. Subscribe to the Optimus channel. You can ask Kevin. We have a robust schedule of YouTube content coming out ahead of the draft and then after the draft and beyond to get you through all of this madness. Check that out right now. OptimusFantasy.com. Kevin's Zero RB article is live. And we've got a Dynasty Startup Strategy Guide on there as well from Mr. Lou Brunson. For Kevin Tompkins, for Keith Fleming, guys, I am Nate Paulvote. This is Optimus Fantasy, and Kevin and I will see you on Monday morning.